Chapter 10. Mel. After I got done explaining everything to our concerned mother, I had to try and take some deep breaths to relax myself. I was shaking and could barely keep my hands still, even with them clasped together in front of me. I wouldn't lie that this whole thing had me shaken up. What if that thing came back? Well, I think it's best you all stay here and keep together. You've been targeted, and it is not safe to let any of you leave. If you separate, it will start picking you off one at a time. This could be connected with the other witch murders, our mother said. So we have to stay here together? Vincent asked. He moved himself away from the small group. He didn't like crowds, it seemed. He had his hands in his pockets of his coat as he looked at my mother. That is the only safe option, yes. You should contact your parents if need be. Let them know where you are, she suggested. Well, I can do that, but expect my mother to burst through the door and try to yank me out by the ear, Vincent said with a sigh. She will do nothing of the sort. This is life and death. She must understand that, Mom spoke sternly. I'll admit, I'm a bit worried about them. I mean, the demon, as you call it, did seem to be in my house. What about my parents, my sister? Will they be okay? Vincent asked, raising an eyebrow. Well, we'll have to warn them. Have them put up some shields to protect themselves. It seemed to me like that thing was after you specifically, though, I explained to Vincent. He nodded as if agreeing that might be true. I should shoot my dad a text, Oliver said, pulling his phone out of his pocket, typing up a message to his dad. He would worry, but Oliver was always over here anyways, so he would be safe with us. We'd make sure of that. Vincent. I needed to call my family and warn them of the possible danger. I just didn't wish to speak to them while all these people were present. My mother was cruel and loud after all. I need to use the bathroom, is that okay? I asked, looking to Miss Price. She looked a bit nervous about the idea of me taking off for even a moment, but nodded. Yes, that should be fine. Please make it quick, and if anything happens, call for us. She smiled warmly. I understand, I replied before looking to the two Price siblings. Oh, upstairs first door on your left, Cece explained in a gentle and polite way. Okay, thank you, I said, with another nod before heading to the bathroom upstairs. I stepped inside, locking the door behind me, retrieving my phone from the back pocket of my dress pants, calling my mother. It rang quite a few times before I heard her irritated voice. Vincent, where did you go? I heard all this noise upstairs and your door was locked, not to mention your room was trashed. What is going on? She growled into the phone. It's a complicated story, but I was attacked by some demon-like thing, I explained. Demon? She questioned. Yes. I was chased from the house and was found by the Price daughters and other people from our coven, I said. She was quiet for a few minutes, as if I had taken away her voice. Where are you now? She asked, her voice stern. I'm at the Price's house, I replied. What? She screeched. I pulled the phone away from my ear. She was so loud and angry. How dare you go to their house? We don't need their pity, she lectured. Mother, I don't know if you are aware, but I almost died. In my room, and you didn't even hear it, I hissed into the phone. That's not the point. The point is you're taking shelter in their home and... Wait! Actually, this is perfect. My mother's tone switched to become chipper now. What a drastic change. What do you mean? I questioned as I looked into the mirror above the sink. I could see my face was more pale than normal, and my eyes looked tired. I needed sleep. Now you can dig up dirt on that holier-than-thou family, she said. Why would I do that? Don't you see, Vincent? It's perfect. I can finally get you in the spotlight like you deserve. We release all their dark secrets and get them exiled from their own coven. Then we can take over. We would have all the power, and we would have the dark book, she explained excitedly. No, I won't do that to them. They risk their lives to help me. I won't be your spy, Mother, and I won't betray their trust. I spoke seriously and turned back to the mirror, leaning against the sink. How dare you tell me no? I raised you. I made you a magnificent child. I want what is best for you and this family. No, you want what is best for you. Don't bring me into this nonsense. You have another child you successfully manipulated. My mother literally growled at that answer. She was so angry I could hear her gritting her teeth in response. If that's how you feel, then fine. You stay with those stuck-up witches, traitor. She then hung up. I sighed, looking down at the phone in my hand. Well, I'm glad you're okay, I said to the phone sarcastically. Honestly, this is what I get for trying to worry and care for them. I splashed some cold water on my face and walked out of the bathroom. Riley. I was standing in a room with people I just met, not to mention I was also being hunted. I caught Vincent coming back from the bathroom and he was looking down at his phone. It must not have gone well. I had my phone pressed to my ear, waiting for my mother to answer. Hello? A sweet and tired voice chimed into my ear. Hey Mom, sorry to wake you. I just needed to fill you in on everything. I told her. I dove immediately into what had happened tonight and how close it had been. Oh, my sweet Riley, are you okay? I'll be right over, my mother said. I could hear rustling in her waking my sleepy father. Mom, please, it's okay. Take your time. I'm safe. Everything is fine, and I'm not going anywhere, I said, trying to calm her down. Riley, you can't talk me out of this. I could have lost you, sweetheart. Besides, I want to be informed on what to do to help you through this. Honey, I can't let the prices do it all, she explained. I sighed but smiled. My mom was always like this. She truly was my rock and the one person that I could count on no matter what. I knew I couldn't talk her out of it. She had made up her mind. I guess I'll see you soon, I told her. Yes, of course. I'll see you soon. She said her goodbyes and hung up the phone. My mom is on her way, I said, looking around at everyone. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. I smiled at Miss Price. She didn't seem too upset by this. As a matter of fact, she was probably hoping more of the Coven would show up to lend assistance. She was worried and scared. She needed support just like anyone else. Colt. It had taken time, but we had all informed our families what had happened, and by midday my mother, Riley's mother, and the Prices had gathered at the house with all sorts of things. Herbs, spices, charms, candles, and more. They had gotten together and made a big meal for everyone. A few of us had to call our places of employment. Mrs. Price said we would be out of work indefinitely. I couldn't argue with that after everything that had happened. It wouldn't be safe going to work on our own. Mr. Price had questioned each of us to see if we could find any details that could match our demon with the other attacks. He didn't look very hopeful. Each attack was different. One seemed like werewolves, another like ghouls, then vampires. Now it seemed demons were attacking us. Was every evil supernatural creature in the world just out to get our Coven? Or were they being controlled? Maybe somebody or something was rallying them against us. Or maybe it was a crazy serial killer just trying to find out their favorite method of murder, and it's just a coincidence that all the victims are witches. Doubtful, but I've seen crazier things. Mr. Price left shortly after questioning us. He had an entire wall dedicated to this investigation, he had told us, which meant he needed to get this information on the wall and go over it with his second-in-command, Officer Logan. So not to sound ungrateful or anything, I started as we all sat around the living room with plates full of food. But how are we supposed to stay in this 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom guest house? There's 8 of us if you include the human on the couch, although I'm not convinced he's going to wake up. I added the last part under my breath. That's easy enough. Let us show you. Miss Price looked to my mother and Mrs. Tesler, and they went over to the living room closet. They opened it and pulled everything out, then shut the door. Together they chanted something in a language I wasn't familiar with. We all heard what sounded like loud wood creaking, and when it stopped, they swung open the door. We all gathered around and were astonished. Where there had once been a closet was now a large hallway with 8 doors. 6 more bedrooms and 2 more bathrooms. Anything else you might need from home will be brought to you. All I need is a list of necessities. Guys! Riley called for our attention. Nikolai? Her voice turned soft. I turned to see her on her knees next to the couch. Cece was by their sides immediately, and we all seemed to follow suit. His eyes opened for a moment, closed again. Then he blinked a few times. The confusion on his face was plain as day. Where is this? He asked in a very heavy accent. You're somewhere safe. We were attacked, remember? Riley said gently. You were hurt, so I brought you here to my friend, and she helped. Riley, are you hurt too? Nikolai tried to jump up, but gently Riley pushed him back down. I'm okay. You protected me. What do you remember? A small man. He was very strong. Nikolai shook his head and touched his throat, where thick scars were healing still. He bit me, and the fire was dancing around the air. Riley's face went pale. I had heard that Riley's gift was soul fire. She must have used it to save Nikolai. I'm going to get him some food and water. He hasn't eaten in over a day," Miss Tesler said, which made Nikolai finally look around and take stock of his surroundings. This time he managed to sit up, pushing Riley's hand away. Before he could say a word, we were all distracted by a gold glow. Our gazes shifted to the source of the light, Cece. A soft breeze blew around us, and a quiet humming sang through the air. The light around her waved like an ocean, and then 7 beams of gold light shot from her and straight into the hearts of all of us, except for our parents. As soon as the light entered me, I felt warm, at peace, safe. It felt like something had finally clicked or fallen into place, something right and good. My entire body tingled, as if something was passing through me. I didn't know how else to explain it, but the light was gone after an instant, and Cece collapsed to her knees. "What the hell?" Mel was the first to speak as she helped Cece to her feet once more. My body was back to normal except a slight prickling on the back of my left hand. I inspected the spot and was shocked. I found a golden dragon there. It was probably only the size of a quarter. The small dragon had sharp teeth, and its body flowed into a perfect spiral with a flaming tail in the middle. I grabbed Mel's hand, and she had the exact same mark. We exchanged a confused look. "What is this?" she asked, holding her hand out for everyone to see. I glanced around at all of them. Riley, Nikolai, Oliver, Raella, Cece, Vincent, Mel, and myself all had the same mark. "You're a destined coven," Miss Price spoke, stunned. "You're—" She didn't finish. "What are you talking about, Mom?" "Destined covens are special. They are very rare, really. They only happen once in a lifetime. A destined coven is a specific group of people tied together by destiny. Unlike regular covens, no one can join or leave at will," Raella explained. "Why? What's so special about a destined coven?" Vincent asked. I was still too stunned to speak. "They are far more powerful, individually and together. The last destined coven to exist was my great-grandmother's coven. They traveled around the world hunting demons and protecting both humans and weaker covens alike." Raella's eyes flickered to Vincent, who looked very uncomfortable. "I guess this is why my mother sent me here to find all of you." Wait. Oliver called her attention. "This can't be right. Nikolai is human, and I was born without powers. We can't really be in a coven." "Oliver, you still have warlock blood. Maybe Nikolai does too. I don't know why this has happened, but it isn't something that can be undone," Miss Price said wisely. "That gold light was the binding of all of your souls together, and the mark left over is a sign of your allegiance to one another. You are all bound until death." Nikolai. This was all a dream. Talks of warlocks, destiny, demons, power, dancing fire, beams of light coming out of that woman. It couldn't be real. Maybe I died when the small man attacked us. But if I was dead, then why would I be able to feel Riley's heartbeat in her wrist? She had to be alive and real. What was going on? I looked around. Only one face aside from Riley's was familiar, and that was her mother. "Nikolai," Riley whispered, "you're hurting me." I looked to her in shock. She was looking down at her wrist, which I was holding very tightly. I hadn't meant to, so I loosened my grip, guilt washing over me. Both of us had the mark of the gold spiral dragon on our hands. "Sorry, but," I trailed. "Crazy. These things everyone is saying are crazy." I scratched at the skin where the mark was, but it didn't feel any different from the rest of my hand. Worse, it didn't rub off. "It's all true. We are witches. Here, I'll prove it." Riley pulled her hand free from me and held it up. A little ball of fire appeared above her palm. It was a bright red flame, and it moved around as she was moving it with her fingers. Flashes of a red and white dragon spewing flames leapt before my eyes. I shook my head. I was truly going insane. "How?" I asked in shock. "It had to be a trick." "Magic. I'm a witch," she answered. I moved my fingers around the fire, looking for anything that could explain this. She grabbed the little flame with her hand, and a thin band of fire began to travel up her arm. "See, it doesn't even hurt me." "Magic is real?" I asked, just to be sure. "Yes." She put her arm down, and the fire disappeared completely. This was all too strange. Being attacked, waking up surrounded by strangers, and being shown that magic. It just had to be a dream. "Riley." I didn't know what else to say or do. Nikolai didn't seem to be handling this very well. We were all forced together, and we would have to make the best of the situation. I slowly placed my hand over Nikolai's. "I know this is a lot to take in. It's different and strange to find out there is more to the world than you once knew." He made no attempt to pull his hand away or jump back. Only moments ago fire had consumed this hand. He was not afraid of me, and I was relieved. "I think, yes, it is strange," he responded, meeting my eyes. "Well, I understand that. You have to understand that we're stuck together now. We cannot run away or separate from one another," I explained. He responded by tilting his head and raising an eyebrow curiously. He didn't understand, and he was hard to understand. It was also confusing, and it made my head pound. "We are now a coven, and this binds us together by fate. We are in danger, and if we leave each other's side now, it could be deadly," I told him. He just kept staring at me, not saying a word. What could he say? I felt like I was sweeping him into more of my bad luck. I looked away from him before I sighed. "I know being stuck with us is not ideal, but please, you have to understand that you have to keep close to us from now on." Suddenly I felt his hand turn over as he slowly entwined our fingers. "Stuck with you is not such a bad thing." "Not bad at all," he said. His hand felt warm and comforting. His reply lifted a huge weight from my shoulders and maybe even my heart. I looked to him again with a small smile, feeling the heat rushing to my cheeks. He was a strange one, yet in some way I felt like I had known him forever. Well, the scene before us made me want to gag. Now wasn't the time for such mushy crap, at least not in my opinion. I looked away from them and my attention fell on Oliver. He was rather quiet for a change. He stood with his arms crossed over his chest while staring at the floor. His expression showed confusion and concern. "Ollie, what's up?" I asked him. His eyes darted to me as I addressed him before he shook his head. "I just don't understand how I could be a part of a coven," he replied. "They just explain that to you. Do you even listen?" "You have warlock blood inside of you, so it makes sense," I reiterated, hearing the annoyance in my tone. What, did he get lost looking at Cece earlier? "Yeah, I heard that, but I just don't think I'm cut out for it. I mean, I have no abilities, and I'm unable to hold my own in a fight," he mumbled. "Wow. Yeah, and the foreign guy on our couch is mortal, so it's not like it's just you," I retorted. "But it is. That man could fight off an enemy, or at least attempt to defend himself," he hissed. "Oliver, it's not like you're skinny and pathetic. You surely could hold your own. I mean, you're buff for a reason, right?" I said. Oliver shook his head again, and his eyes became rather sad as he glanced at Cece, who was standing with me but was distracted by the confused man on the couch. "It isn't just me that I want to protect. I want to be there for her too," he whispered softly. It became clear to me then that Oliver wanted to be dependable, a type to support for my sister, whether he admitted it or not. "Oliver, what seems to be troubling you?" my mother asked from across the room. She caught sight of our little exchange. She surely saw the uncertainty in his eyes. "It appears he's uncertain. He fears it cannot be of use or even protect the one he cares for the most." Rayella spoke up from Vincent's side. I had hardly noticed she had moved to him. Oliver's eyes widened, and before he could speak, Cece made her way over to him. "That just isn't true, Oliver. I know you have potential inside of you," she told him, taking his hand in both of hers. I saw Oliver's eyes practically light up, and his cheeks redden. "I appreciate the faith in me, but what could I possibly do to help any of you?" he asked, but he was only looking at Cece. His eyes were solely focused on her. "Oliver, what can't you do? You have physical strength, determination, and the ability to fool people with card tricks. Surely things like that could be useful," Cece answered, without missing a beat. "I don't know if magic tricks will help when facing real magic," Oliver chuckled. He was relaxing just by talking with Cece. She was a healer in many ways, and she didn't even know. "Maybe, and maybe not, but that can't stop you from learning other skills. You're so quick to learn new things," Cece complimented. "Cece's right, Oliver. You have the ability to learn potions and protection spells, too," Miss Tesla replied. "Well, I mean, that's true. I could try. Maybe then I can pull some weight," he said with a smile as he kept his eyes on Cece. "You all talk as if you will be fighting this thing," my mother interrupted. "Mom, what do you want us to do? Stay in hiding?" I asked, turned my attention towards her now. "Obviously, I do not want you going out and fighting an unknown force. That's a suicide mission," my mother scolded, her hands on her hips. "So we hide like prey and just let it circle and trap us within the house? What about our lives, Mom?" I asked, mimicking her and putting my hands on my own hips. "You can still live your lives. It just has to be safely and secure. You have to understand your surroundings and your enemy. You will not be stepping up on the front lines. You're still young," she told me. I knew she was right, and I knew we should leave this alone. But we were destined, and now we were our own coven. I felt we needed to help and work with Mom's coven to defeat whatever the enemy was. though Mom was scared and she wanted to keep us all safe. If that's how it's going to be, then let's learn about our enemy, Colt suggested, standing beside me now, his hand on my shoulder, as if holding me back from starting a fight I didn't want. And how do we go about that? The police in the Coven haven't even been able to label a suspect yet, Riley replied, looking to us. Well, they always say more heads are better than one, Colt said with a shrug. I believe it's 2 heads are better than one, I reminded him. Yeah, but there are more than 2 people here, he retorted with a smirk. Okay, that was fair. That's right, there are now 2 covens, Raella replied, with a small smile. Cece. Well, one step at a time. Right now we need to get settled, pick rooms, get all supplies we need, move everyone in, so to speak. Then we can come up with a plan. I pulled everyone's attention. We were all so worked up that I needed to remind them that we couldn't figure everything out in one day. Right. Everyone make lists of the things you need from your homes and we will go retrieve everything, my mother began. But a lot of us live on our own and have no one to pack our things for us. Is it safe enough for us to go in pairs? Raella asked with a raised eyebrow. My mother pursed her lips. Riley and Nikolai were attacked when it was just the 2 of them, and Nikolai almost died. How about we escort 2 at a time to go home and retrieve their things themselves? Riley's mother suggested. Wonderful idea. I can take Oliver and Vincent, my mother commended. I'll take Riley and Nikolai, Miss Tesla furthered. Then I'd be happy to escort Colt and Raella, Mrs. Collins Colt's mom added sheepishly. She was rather shy, but also very sweet. I'd have a better chance at buying new things than getting any of my old things back from my parents, Vincent spoke directly to my mother. His eyes were dark. He almost looked ashamed. That's just nonsense. Your mother is a difficult woman, but she still wants you safe, I'm sure, my mother encouraged. I'm sorry, but you don't know her. Vincent shook his head. Well, I can take you to the store, and you can get a few things, but I will talk to your mother and make her understand the situation. Please, she won't listen to you. Raella stepped closer to Vincent, almost protectively. She hates that I'm here. I already talked to her. I'm not welcome back there, I'm afraid. Ugh, Raella grunted in disgust. Do not feel that way about you. Your mother does not determine your life. Vince's eyes went wide as he met Raella's piercing green stare. I don't like your power, he stated bluntly. No one does, she shrugged. Well, maybe your father will listen to me, my mother said. We all need to get going. We have to get back before dark, and if anything happens... She paused. Well, let's just hope for the best. Be back here in 4 hours. They all left in a hurry, leaving behind Mel, all the familiars, and myself. I collapsed on the couch the moment I heard Mel lock the door behind everyone. Too much. This was just all too much. I hope that the rooms they conjured have furniture, Mel said in a snarky tone. I hoisted myself up after too short of a break, and followed Mel as she headed down the recently added hallway. The floors were all dark, glossy wood, and the walls were all soft beige color. Every room was exactly the same. A big bed, closet, dresser, desk, and 1 window. It took a lot of power to conjure things like this, so it makes sense that they didn't spend extra power making the rooms different. The weirdest part was that from the outside you would never know this was added. The 2 bathrooms also had wood floors and came fully equipped with a big bathtub, shower, double sinks, and a lot of cabinet space. We need to cover all of these windows. We have a bunch of old curtains in the linen closet, right? From when Grandma lived here? Mel asked. I think so. There should be a whole bunch of towels, too. We both ran upstairs and started digging around the closets until we found everything we needed. We hung curtains and stocked the bathrooms with hand soap, towels, and washcloths. 2 hours had already passed when we heard 2 loud bangs at the door. We both froze. Someone could be back, Mel whispered, her icy eyes wary. Or something could be back, I warned. We have to go see, she hissed at me. I nodded and started towards the door. When we managed to make our way to the front, I peeked at the window. There was no one out there. I looked at Mel and shook my head. The creature had been invisible to begin with. Maybe this was a trap. To my dismay, she unlocked the door and began to twist the knob, peeking before opening it all the way. There's a box on our porch. What? I stepped closer as she opened the door the rest of the way. A big box was on the porch, with Vincent from Dad written on the top of it. We pulled it inside and locked the door again. The box was too heavy to pull down the hallway. We decided to leave that to Vincent, since it was his box anyway. After that, Mel and I finally had a chance to sit down for real. She had pulled her platinum hair into a messy ponytail, and I could see her icy eyes, full of stress. It's gonna be okay, I comforted. "We'll see," she mumbled back. "Oh, crap," I sighed as I pulled my phone out of my pocket. "What?" she asked. "What am I going to tell Noah? We have a date planned tomorrow." "Forget about him, will you? He's such a creep. Plus, we have more important things to worry about." Mel's words hurt me, but I did my best to ignore her. She knew nothing about Noah. He was wonderful and caring. I had a missed call from him and 2 messages. The first message was at 9 o'clock this morning and said, "Hey, gorgeous, are you excited about tomorrow? I have the best surprise planned." I wanted more than anything to be able to go with him tomorrow. Around noon, he had tried to call me, and when I didn't pick, he sent me another text. "Are you all right? I haven't heard from you since yesterday." I would have to call him back. He was probably worried sick. I decided it was now or never and dialed his number, twisting my fingers nervously through my strawberry hair. "Hey, I've been worried about you," he answered after the first ring. "Yeah, I've been okay. Busy. I'm sorry." "Oh, with what? Anything I can help with?" His deep voice rumbled through the phone. "No, thank you. I have some family visiting from out of town. I don't think I'll be able to make it tomorrow." When there was no response after a few seconds, I continued, "I'm sorry. I was very excited about going out with you again, but this is a once-a-year visit, and it was a surprise," I lied. "Well, that's too bad," Noah began. "I was going to ask you something very important." "Oh?" I was intrigued. "Yeah, do you mind if I come over for a little bit? I have a gift for you," he asked, excitement filling his voice. I bit my lip. I could take him up to my room. He wouldn't have to see any of the others. What was the worst that could happen? Well, the demon could come back. I couldn't risk Noah's life like that. "I'm not so sure that's a good idea," I said softly. "Please, please, this is very important," he begged. I looked out the window. The sun was still up. As long as he left before the sun went down, it should be okay, right? Fine. But only for a little bit. My family won't be gone much longer. And by family I meant friends. "I will be there in 2 minutes," he hung up. "Mel, Noah is coming over. He won't be here long, but if the Coven gets back before he leaves, will you please make them hide?" "Are you kidding me?" Mel hissed. "No, and please be nice." She glared at me until the doorbell rang. I hopped up and opened it. There he was in all his handsome glory, standing with a small black velvet box and roses. "It's good to see you again," he said softly. "It's good to see you too," I blushed as he handed me the flowers. "How did you get here so fast?" "I was in the area," he grinned. "Come in," I invited. He stepped in and immediately greeted Mel with a big smile. "Hey there, nice to see you again." Yeah, don't stay long, we have things to do," Mel remarked with an eye roll. "Ignore her," I chimed as I took Noah's hand and led him up the stairs. "Let's go upstairs." When we got to my bedroom, I shut the door and put the flowers in a vase on my side table. I loved flowers. "You have a lovely room," he complimented, taking a seat on the edge of my bed. "Thank you." I sat next to him, feeling warmth in my cheeks. "So what was the very important question you had for me?" I pulled my fingers through my long hair. It was a nervous tic I had. He handed me a little box. "For you." "Oh?" It looked suspiciously like a ring box. Nervously, I opened it. Inside were the biggest, brightest pair of gold and diamond earrings I'd ever seen. "I can't accept these. It must have cost a fortune." I started to hand the box back. No, keep them." He gently pushed the box away. "I don't know what to say to you. Thank you." The truth was, I wasn't a fan of material things, especially if they were big and flashy. I preferred more thoughtful gifts rather than expensive ones. Maybe this was his way of being thoughtful. "Any time. I have an important question for you," he said, shoving a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "Oh?" "I know we've only been on one date, but I feel like we have something good, something special. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I hope you do. So please, will you be mine? My girlfriend, if you will. I want to make us official." I felt my heart stop. Official? Girlfriend? He was right. We had only been on one date. How could I say yes? On the other hand, how could I say no? As if God was sending me a saving grace, my cell phone rang. I gave Noah an apologetic look and grabbed it. It was my mom. "I'm so sorry. It's my mom. I really have to answer." He nodded understanding. He was really a great guy. I should have said yes, right? What woman in her right mind wouldn't? "Cece, we're going to be back in a few minutes. Have you heard from anyone else?" my mother asked immediately. "No, Mom, but I'm sure they'll be back soon. We're waiting for you. We've got the spare room set up," I answered, hopping off the bed and walking into the other corner of my room. "Okay, I'll see you then," she said and hung up. "Is everything okay?" Noah asked. "Yes. My mom and visiting family will be here soon. Listen, Noah, I really do like you, but I need a little time to think this over." I paused and dared to look at him. His face was an unreadable mask. He didn't look angry or disappointed. He looked completely neutral and unfamiliar. I see, he spoke softly. Is there any way I could sway you? We have such a strong connection already. Would you like to meet my parents? Maybe you could come over for breakfast Sunday. It's a few days away, enough time for me to get all my thoughts straight, I suggested. That sounds lovely. His face lit up, becoming the Noah I once knew. Great. Well, my house will be packed full soon, so you should probably go while you still can. Our short walk to the front door was quiet, but not in a bad way. I had given him hope. I could see it in his eyes. Thank you, beautiful. I will see you in a few days. He leaned in and kissed my cheek. See you, I waved as he left. What had I gotten myself into? Mel. That was beyond disgusting, I told my sister from the spot on the couch. She had closed the front door and locked it, leaning against it with a soft sigh. Oh, Mel, come on, that's not very nice. You don't even know him, Cece said, looking to me. You don't know him that well either. You may be dating him casually, but that doesn't mean anything. You don't really know a person after one date, I told her. Well, you don't know him at all. You refuse to even give him a chance, my sister defended, pushing herself off the door. That's because I don't like the vibes he's giving off. He's too nice and too perfect, I shot back. Oh, and you're an expert on men? She asked before heading up the stairs. She stopped before she reached the top and looked back down at me. You better get used to Noah. He's coming over for breakfast Sunday, she said before disappearing up the stairs and into her room. I groaned and turned away before I heard the door. My mother, Oliver, and Vincent arrived back first. Mrs. Collins, Colt, and Rayella came shortly after. Mom came through the door first, followed by everyone. Everyone was carrying boxes. We're back. Where's Cece? Mom asked, looking around the room. Upstairs, I responded, pointing to her room. I then turned my attention to Oliver. Hey, dude, we need to talk now, I demanded, grabbing him by the front of his shirt and pulling him over to a corner away from the group. Whoa, what is wrong with you? What's up? He asked, confusion clear in his voice. Do you know what your little girlfriend just did? She invited that jerk over to our family breakfast on Sunday, I hissed. Oliver's face fell for a moment and he looked away, adjusting his hold on his box. He didn't say anything for a few minutes. Well, if that's what she wants, then we can't really stop her. I can't be around that, though. I don't think I can handle it, Oliver said. He was accepting defeat, and it made my stomach turn. He had more guts than that, I was sure. You're just going to leave Cece and the rest of us alone with him? That guy is bad news. He's too perfect, and not to mention, he just gives me bad vibes. I shoved him lightly. That's not fair. We don't even know him. It's kind of messed up to just assume he's the worst. Yeah? And what if I'm right? What if he's playing with Cece? What if he uses the breakfast as a way to butter Mom and Dad up to gain their trust? We know nothing about him. We should at least investigate the guy, I suggest. Mel, will you drop this? We aren't going to follow this guy around and try to find something wrong with him, Oliver hissed. Why? You promised me you would help me. Don't you care about her at all? I growled. Of course I do, but I want her to be happy, and she seems happy. If she finds out, she'll be really upset. The key word is seems. That's how all relationships start before you get to the dark details. Colt's familiar voice spoke up from behind me. I looked to him and sighed. Colt, I don't remember asking your opinion, I remarked, placing my hand on my hip. I was sure I sounded irritated. Well, you two were whispering very violently, so I couldn't help myself, Colt chuckled with a shrug of his shoulders. Wait. You actually think there are dark details in their relationship? Oliver asked Colt. Well, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. She's a sweet and kind of naive woman. Guys eat that stuff up. She probably wouldn't even know it was happening. I see it happen in the bar I work at all the time, Colt said. Oliver looked almost pale. I could see many scenarios running through his head. I mean, no way that she would put up with that, right? He isn't like that, right? Oliver asked, glancing at me. I don't know. That's my point. What better way to find out than to investigate him? I said with a small smile coming to my lips. I mean, even if we wanted to, we can't go out alone, Oliver pointed out. Well, then we can go as a small group. We can go out just the three of us and track him down, Colt suggested. You don't need to come, I told him. Actually, Mel, 3 people are better than 2, and I don't have any powers to help if something attacks us, Oliver chimed in. I groaned at that and looked away. Oliver did have a point, and I really wanted to figure Noah out. I needed to know what he planned to do, and find a flaw in him of some kind. I wanted to support Oliver, but there was no way I would let anyone hurt my sister. So it's settled. We will all go together, Colt said, placing his arm over my shoulder. I guess so, I replied, pushing him away from me. So that also means you're coming to the breakfast, Oliver. Now we just had to wait for the perfect day and time to tail him.